Hey guys, welcome to the session. This is Sudeshna, Assistant Professor of CSE Department. In this session, I would like to discuss about built-in exceptions of Java. So we all know what is an exception in Java actually. Exception is nothing but an unexpected event that happens in between execution. So that should be handled. Otherwise, it will disturb the normal flow of execution of the program. So exceptions should be handled. So we have seen that exceptions are actually two types. One is built-in exception, the other type is user-defined exception. Built-in type, built-in exceptions are nothing but these are the type of exceptions which are available in Java language by default. Like few exceptions are predefined, and user-defined exception means the user can define his own kind of exceptions based on his requirement. So in this session, I would like to discuss about built-in exception in detail. So let's see what are the predefined or else default available built-in exceptions in Java language. So as I told, built-in exceptions are the exceptions which are available in Java libraries. These exceptions are suitable to explain certain error situations. Below is a list of important built-in exceptions in Java. So in Java, we have 12 built-in exceptions. Now let's see what are those. The first one is arithmetic exception. So from the name, we can guess that it is an exception which occurs in an arithmetic operation. Second is array index out of bounds exception. It indicates that if you are trying to access the data which is out of the bound of the array, then it shows this default exception. That is, if you are trying to access with an illegal index, then this exception will be raised. Next is class not found exception. So this is raised when we try to access a class whose definition is not found. And next is file not found exception. Again, this is similar to the above one, but here we are trying to open a file or read something from a file or write to a file which is actually not existing. In that case, you will get this type of exception. So this is raised when a file is not accessible or does not open. So in short, we can say that when it does not exist actually. Next is IO exception. It is input output related exception. So this is thrown when an input output operation failed or interrupted. The sixth one is interrupted exception. It is thrown when a thread is waiting, sleeping, or doing some processing and it is interrupted. So when the thread is doing some work and if you are interrupting in between, then this shows this interrupted exception. Now let's see the seventh one, that is no such field exception. So this is raised when a class does not contain the field, that is if it doesn't contain a particular data member, then in that case it will show this exception. Similarly, the next one is no such method. If you're trying to access a method which is not there in a class, then this shows this kind of exception. Next is null pointer exception. This is raised when referring to the members of a null object, that is null represents nothing. So if you're trying to access a null object, then this exception is raised. Next is number format exception. This exception is raised when a method could not convert a string into numeric format. So when you're trying to convert the string into numeric format and it cannot be converted, then this exception will be raised. And next is runtime exception. So this exception occurs during running time. And the last one is string index out of bounds exception. So here it is concerned with the string class methods to indicate that an index is either negative than the size of string. So if you're taking a string and from the string, if I want to take a substring, then if the substring size is valid, then you'll not get this exception. If it is an illegal or invalid size of a substring, then this kind of exception will be raised. So these are the 12 exceptions which are built-in exceptions in Java language. Arithmetic array index of bound, class not found, file not found, IO exception, interrupted exception, no such field, no such method, null pointer, number format, runtime, string index out of bounds, exception. So these exceptions we have to remember while programming in Java. Now let's see how these built-in exceptions are handled in Java actually. So first of all, we have to remember one thing. Any exception in Java is handled with the help of five keywords that try, catch, throw, throws, finally. So in this session, I will discuss only try, catch, and finally. Throw and throws, I'll discuss in the next video. Now let's see what is try, catch, and finally. Let's see the syntax first. Now the syntax will be like this. Try block, then followed by catch block, then followed by finally block. So this is a syntax. Now in the try block, you'll have some piece of code where exception will be placed, or else where you can find the exception. Now if at all any exception is there in this code which is there in the try block, then it should be handled by a catch block, which is immediately following the try block. Now here we should remember one thing, that try block cannot be alone. Means we should not write a try block without a catch block. Similarly, we should not write a catch block without a try block. And finally can be there, which has some piece of code which will be executing after this try catch block. So if the exception is raised here, that is handled by the catch block. Now imagine that the exception is not raised or else it is not handled. Then the finally is a block of code which will be executed either the exception is handled or it is not handled. So in either the cases, finally block code will be executed. Next thing is, I told that catch will be handling the exceptions which are raised in the try block. Now this catch block will mention which class or else which type of exception it is. Now we have seen in the previous slide that 12 built-in exceptions are there. Now if any of the 12 type of exception is here, then that particular class should be written here, mentioning that it is going to handle that particular class of exception. So all these exceptions, whatever we have learned, they're actually exception classes. Now this is about try, catch, and finally. Now let's see the description. As I told, try is keyword is used to specify a block where we should place the exception code. The try block must be followed either catch or finally. It means we can't use try block alone. Like similarly, catch block, it is used to handle the exception. It must be preceded by try block, which means we can't use catch block alone. It can be followed by finally block later. And now let's see finally. The finally block is used to execute the important code of program. It is executed whether exception is handled or not. So this is the description about these three blocks: try, catch, and finally. So this is the syntax: try followed by catch followed by finally. Now let's see some examples of built-in exception. Now in built-in exceptions, the first one is arithmetic exception. As we have discussed, it will be raised when in an arithmetic operation. That is, if it is illegal arithmetic operation, then this arithmetic exception will be raised. Now let's see one example of this. Now let's see this. In this example, I'm taking a class whose name is arithmetic demo. Now inside that I'm writing the main method. Now inside the main method I'm writing try catch block. In the try block I'll write some piece of code where exception will be placed. Now if we see the try block code here, I'm taking two variables, int a equal to 30, b equal to 0. Now I'm calculating the value of a c where it is taking the division of a by b. Now if you'll observe, b is 0, means you're trying to divide a number by 0. So it is illegal operation. So if it is not illegal, you'll get the value. If it is illegal, that is exception, which will be catched or else which will be handled by the catch block here. Now the catch block, that is, we know that it is a type of arithmetic exception. So that's why this catch block, what it will do is it will mention the class of, that is type of exceptions class, along with the object of that exception. So I'm taking the object here is E. So it will take that this is a class of exception. So I'm printing a statement that can't divide a number by 0. So this is how you'll handle a built-in exception. This is first category. Now let's see the second one. That is array index of bound exception. So from the name we can know that, that is, we are able to guess that we are trying to access something which is beyond the size of your array. Now just see here, in this example I'm taking a class that is array index out of bound demo. I'm writing a main method. Inside that I'm taking a try block. Inside the try block I'm taking an array that is int a is equals to new int 5. That is, my array is a whose size is 5. Now in the next line, I'm trying to assign a value in the sixth location, but my array size is only 5. At sixth location, I'm trying to put some value, so which is illegal because the maximum size itself is 5. There is no sixth location. So this is an exception. So this try block raised an exception which should be handled by the catch block. Now in the catch block, it knows that this is a category of array index of bonds exception. So I'll take that class and with object, and inside that I'm just printing array index is out of bounds. So this is second type of exception. Next is file not found exception. Now from the name itself we can guess that you are trying to access a file which is not actually existing. So now let's see for this one. Now if you'll observe in this program, I have also imported some packages like file package, file not, sorry, java.io package. In that I am accessing a class called file not found exception, file reader. All these are the classes which I need to handle the files. So now after that I took a class whose name is file not found demo. Now main method inside the try block, I am trying to create the object for a file class. That is, we have imported the file class, right? So for the file class, I'm creating an object and that object is file. Now which file, that is location we have to mention. So in E drive, I'm mentioning its name. Imagine that this file is not existing. Then, and to read something, you have to use file reader class. So for that, I am taking the object called file reader fr is equal to new file reader of file object, that is file. So you are trying to read from this file. Imagine that this is not existing, then this will raise an error. Otherwise, it will read the data from this file. Now, if the exception is here, that is, if the exception is raised, then it should be handled by the catch block here. So the class is file not found exception class, object is E, and it is printing that file does not exist. So this is another built-in exception. Now let's see the next one, that is string index out of bound exception. So you're trying to access a string, access a substring or a particular string character from the string which is not legal. Now let's see the example. I took the class that is name is string index out of bound demo main method, and in the try block, just observe I took a string that is a string data type, that is a is a string. In that a, I'm writing some string, that is this is a Java exception. So this is a text I'm saving in a. Now in the next line, I'm trying to take the character at 28th location. That is char at is a method which will retrieve the character at particular location. So in short, it is char at. Now char at means character at particular location. Now the size of this entire string itself, including the spaces, it is 24. So entire length of the string is 24 including the spaces. Now, but in the next line, I'm trying to take the character at 28th location, that is in A string, that is A dot character at 28, means the string A character at 28, whatever is there, I'm trying to retrieve it in C. But this is illegal because the size itself is 24. So this is an exception. If it is not an exception, it will print what is the character at 28th location as C. But if it is exception, then it will be handled by the catch block and it will mention what class of exception it is. String index out of bounds exception E. And it is printing some statement here. So this is another kind of built-in exception. So likewise, we'll use all the built-in exceptions. So we have seen 4 in this session: arithmetic exception, array index of bond exception, file not found exception, string index of bond exception. So in this way, we have to use this built-in exceptions for our programming requirement. So remaining like out of 12, we have discussed 4 here. So remaining all we will be going through while learning the programming in detail. So in this session, we have discussed what is built-in exception, what are the different built-in exceptions, and then we have seen what are the 5 keywords which will handle the exception, that is try, catch, throw, throws, finally. And then we have seen the syntax of try, catch, finally, and we have seen some examples of built-in exceptions. I hope in this session you people understood what is built-in exception in detail. Thank you all.